Shiranui is finally here, and with it, an unexpected Banlist update.
Stand up! Vanguard!
Hey Cardfighters, welcome back to another Cardfight update, and today we've got a very exciting and eventful one, as today we not only got a new reveal of Shiranui as well as Shiranui Ouroboros, but surprisingly enough, today we also got a new update to the ban list, as just a couple of hours before the livestream, Bushiroad revealed a statement on Twitter that there's gonna be a new addition to the restriction list. And that's something that the competitive players were anticipating, but probably not as fast as it did. Without further ado, let's jump straight into these new updated restrictions to the restriction list, and let's talk about why they are hit and what it could mean for the respective clan or deck. So the first one we're gonna address is a new errata for a card that just got released for ofcourse, and that is this grade 3 common card. The thing that they changed is that now its first ability is also on a once per turn clause, and that skill basically allowed him to, on attack, to restand a back row unit. On the surface, this doesn't really sound that big of a problem, especially in standard, as there is no really anything that you could use. You could restand a booster so that the front row attacker could then have another boost on the second attack if it could restand like something like a tidal assault. But in premium, there is a big problem here, because if this unit could attack from the back row itself, he could restand himself on the attack and then keep restanding himself every single time that he attacks, so basically enabling an infinite loop. And in premium, there are two easy ways to enable this. You've got the Megiddo, Zero of Dragon Stride, the Ultimate Stride card, or a more easier card that is Commander Tavis. This is a first stride option that allows you to give any unit the ability to attack from the back row. So just first stride into that one, call this card, give him the ability, and you could infinitely attack. Now, there is the debate if that infinite combo is powerful enough that it will warp the premium landscape, but that argument aside, a one card infinite combo shouldn't really exist in any card game. So this was something that a lot of players were having issues with and wanted it to change, and it was basically a matter of time if they either gonna errata the card or just restrict it or ban it outright, and they decide to errata it preemptively before the card is gonna be released to the public. Now, the second restriction that we've got today is something that we were anticipating, because if you were up to date what's happening in standard right now, it is dominated by Shadow Paladin and mainly by Luard. So a lot of players have had an outcry to Luard that it needs to be done something, and especially to the superior right package that comes with Phantom Blaster Dragon and Benday and the other grade 2 that can search out for Blaster Dark. And Bushiroad decided to actually restrict something for Luard. But this is a bit surprising here, because they decided to choice restrict Drag Hard Luard with Nemain. So you cannot use either of those two cards in the same deck. Now, there are a couple of implications of this restriction for Luard. First off, the superior right package isn't really out of the deck necessarily, because you could still just opt to use Benday as a 4-off and use 4 Blaster Dark, and maybe use the grade 2 Dragon as a 4-off to have a higher consistency of getting to the Blaster Dark, and all the other options. You could still potentially do that, but that does mean that your deck has more dots in it if you do not get the superior right off effectively, and even if you do get the superior right off effectively, then the following subsequent turns you have a lot of just dead cards that doesn't really do anything for your entire engine. So the question is that good enough to just warrant to play that specific playstyle? Then on the other side, because the main is now out of the Luard deck, you got the issue that Pure Luard also got quite a significant hit, as a lot of their resource tool are now gone, or the easy options are available to them to just fetch out a counter charger, fetch out a draw engine, or fetch out a very strong booster. That's now off the table because the main is gone. So Pure Luard is significantly weaker because of it, and the superior right engine is also less consistent. It doesn't necessarily mean less stronger, but definitely less consistent. But the overall thing is that the entire Luard package that has the overall consistency wise and all the valuable engines and everything that you can choose whatever you want, plus superior right engine, is now basically off the table. You either go for pure Luard with a lot of options, or you go for the superior right engine. So this particular hit is quite effective in what it wants to do. It neuters Luard quite a bit. You now have to choose which direction. Will it make the deck significantly weaker? That's the question. Because now we need to see if the superior right engine on its own can carry the deck, or it definitely needed the entire package besides the superior right engine to give you some weight into the late game. So we have to wait and see till the results if things will work out. Now with those new addition to the restriction list, let's dive into the new cards for Nubatama, as we've got a couple of very interesting support cards for Nubatama with the whole Shiranui package. And we're going to start off with a new triple R grade 3 Shiranui, which is Stealth Dragon Shiranui himself. And he has the following skills: act on Vanguard Circle, cost, discard a card from your hand, search your deck for up to one Demon Stealth Dragon Shiranui or Boro, write it a stand, and shuffle your deck. So this basically allows you to fix your right, as you can go from discard immediately into a Boro, which is the VR grade 3. Now this doesn't necessarily give you any advantage, as you discard a card to write into a Boro, which is a card from deck, so that's a 1-for-1 trade. But that said, you get another protect marker. So if you write this Shiranui, get a protect marker, discard a card from your hand, write your Boro, you deck Fin for 1, and you get another protect marker. And at the same time, you get one more soul, and more importantly, you get one more grade 3 in soul, which is always a significant thing in the protect clan. So on surface, this doesn't really look like you get any value, but actually you get a lot of value. Deck Fin 1, you get another protect marker, and you get another grade 3 in your soul for discarding a card, which is actually pretty good value. But the main value behind Shiranui is its second ability, which is a rearguard skill, which is auto on rearguard circle. When it attacks a Vanguard, if you have a Vanguard with Shiranui in its card name, this unit gets power plus 10k until the end of turn. Then at the end of the battle, put this unit into your soul, draw a card, choose up to one of your opponent's rearguards, and return it to hand. If it was returned, your opponent chooses a card from his or her hand and discard it. So on top of the fact that it can superior right into the Correct Ouroboros, so you get another grade 3 in soul, it as a rearguard can also put itself into soul. It can be a good beat stick, which has a similar skill like Zuiten or any of the other grade 2s or grade 3s from other decks that can, at the end of the turn or battle, put itself into soul to draw a card. Those skills are always really powerful. So this skill is definitely super powerful, as it's on a grade 3 in a protect deck, which then can fuel your special soul blasting skills. But on top of that, it also allows you to bounce a card from the field and force your opponents to discard. So effectively retire a unit or put your opponents at a -1 from card advantage, which is actually pretty damn strong and could synergize with other cards within Nubatama. So this opens up a lot of possibilities. Now there is something really interesting with this particular Shiranui, and that's the fact that it immediately superior writes into another grade 3. If you combine this with the old common grade 3 Kokoshi Garus, you could immediately use its skill on the very first grade 3 turn. As you write this Shiranui, get a protect marker, then superior write into Ouroboros, get another protect marker, which is 2 sentinels in hand. So you can immediately use Kokoshi Garus to bounce one of your opponent's rearguards and then immediately put them to a -5 from hand, which could be very dangerous in the right circumstances. So there are a lot of interesting things. This card could give you a lot of grade 3s into the soul very fast. It also could give you a lot of protect markers very fast. So there are a lot of interesting options with other cards within Nubatama. But let's take a look at the new VR, because that is where the real spice is at. Now the new VR for Nubatama is of course Demon Stealth Dragon Shiranui Ouroboros, and its abilities are Continuous on Vanguard Circle. During your turn, if you have 2 or more cards in your soul with Shiranui in their card names, this unit gets power plus 15k, and you perform drive checks for the battles your Mask of Domination tokens attacks. So what's a Mask of Domination token? Well, it's very simple. That is this card. It doesn't have any grade, it doesn't have any power, it doesn't have any shield, it doesn't have any critical. It basically is a substitution for something else. So then you might ask, well, where's the substitution for? Well, that lies in the second ability of Shiranui. But before we get into that second ability of Shiranui, keep note that this Continuous on Vanguard Circle skill asks for 2 or more cards in your soul with Shiranui in their card name. If you wrote the original Shiranui, you can immediately go into this one, which is already 1 Shiranui in hand. Now, if you have a second Shiranui in your hand, you can call it to the rearguard circle, attack with it, and put itself into the soul to fulfill for this condition. So this continuous addition to give your Vanguard plus 15k and potentially give those tokens drive checks is very easy to pull off as long as you have those 2 Shiranuis in your hand. Now, let's take a look at how we can create these tokens and what they actually do. So the second skill for Oboro is act on Vanguard Circle once per turn, cost Counterblast 1, and discard a card from your hand. Choose a unit card from your opponent's rearguard circle or drop zone and bind it. If you bound a card, call a Mask of Domination token to your back row center rearguard circle, and until the end of turn, that token gets the original grade, power, critical, and abilities of the card bound by this effect, and can attack from the back row center rearguard circle. At the end of the turn, remove that token. So basically this effect allows you to get any unit from your opponent's side of the field, either from their rearguard circles or drop zone, and you can get that card onto your back row circle with all its abilities. And keep note, things like Intercept, Boost, and Twin Drive, aka as well as Single Drive, are abilities. They are separate abilities printed on those icons. So you get those drive checks. But in normal circumstances, they don't really matter. But if you fulfill the continuous ability for Oboro, you actually will perform those drive checks. So if you copy a grade 1, a grade 0, or a grade 2, you will get a single drive. But if you copy a grade 2, you get twin drive. And if you're up against Gear Chronicle and they have a Metallica Phoenix in a drop zone, you will get triple drive. So you can actually get a lot of value. And as soon as you only need to discard one card, you will always get that discard back if you get a grade 1 or a grade 2. But if you get a grade 3, you actually plus on this effect, which is really, really good. But if we go into all the intricate interactions, there are a lot of interesting things that will come to mind here, because it gains all the abilities. So grade 3s with strong rearguard effects actually will benefit you in the long run. Something like a Skull Dragon, which can be huge, can also be really huge as a back row attacker on your side of the field. And other special restanding grade 2s like Tidal Assault will activate, or maybe something like an Elgos. You can use those abilities to basically get multiple effects. And as soon as Tidal Assault and Elgos restand and you perform drive checks, you actually get a single drive, restand, and another single drive, which are really interesting interactions. So there are a lot of possibilities with this effect, depending on what type of opponents you're facing. But at the same time, you need to keep in mind, you still need to be able to resolve those abilities in natural circumstances. So if they have a Vanguard skill like Black against Dimension Police, you cannot use its skill because it's a rearguard circle. And on top of that, there are some extra rulings that they gave to this card. The more important ones here is that you cannot activate on place effects, because you don't really place those cards onto the field. They just come into existence because of the token. And also effects that states that they need to be retired to activate their effect won't really activate, because the token doesn't retire itself. It just disappears at the end of the turn. So that's also something you need to keep in mind. But an interesting thing here is that this card states that it gets the original grade, power, and critical. This means card effects of your opponent's side of the field that give their units natural increases to their power or critical actually synergize with the token. And basically, to give a good example here, if you're up against a Force Clan and they have a rearguard unit with a Force 2 marker underneath it, and you decide to choose that unit for this skill, that token that you then create actually swings in with a double critical, because the original critical of that unit was 2 at the time that you chose it. So any other clan that can do something with their natural power or critical, that can increase it or decrease it, actually will affect this ability. So keep that in mind when using Shiranui against certain decks and certain strategies, because this can definitely affect your outcome. It can be a positive thing or it can be a negative thing. So keep that in mind, what happens to the original status of those cards. Now there is one more card that was revealed that I want to go over here that is a really strong card for Nubatama, but I'm actually kind of annoyed because this grade 1 supporter card isn't in the set. It is a promo, which is going to be I believe, a shop tournament promo for Japan. But that doesn't necessarily guarantee that we're going to get it here in the West, in the English format. And honestly, this is a card that Nubatama, or at least the Shiranui deck, really, really needs, because it's super good. As we have this grade 1, Stealth, Beast, Toby, Tachi. And its abilities are continuous rearguard circle. During your turn, if you have a token unit, all of your token units and this unit get power plus 5k. So it becomes a 13k unit if you have the Dominate token, but this also can interact with the Stealth Fiend tokens or the Evo Decoy tokens. So it can interact with those strategies. So it's pretty damn good. But more importantly, if you have a really strong restanders like a Tidal Assault or an Elgos copied with the token, those multi-attacks gain an additional 5k power. So there's actually something merit to that. But the main value lies in its second ability, which is Auto and Vanguard to Rearguard Circle. If you or your opponent's Vanguard have the same grade, this ability cost may be paid with Soul Blast 1. When placed, cost Counter Blast 1, look at 7 cards from the top of your deck, reveal up to 1 card with Shiranui in its card name from among them, and put it into your hand and shuffle your deck. So this is the on-place check top 7 searcher for a Shiranui, so this can be the original Shiranui or Oboro, and add it to your hand for either Counter Blast or a Soul Blast. And in this particular instance, that's really good because it's a stronger going second card, as you can then search for a Shiranui for a Soul Blast, which is a much better cost than just a outright Counter Blast. And as I explained earlier with the original Shiranui, you want to have 2 Shiranuis as soon as possible to get the full power of Ouroboros, as you can write the original Shiranui and then go directly into Ouroboros and then call a Shiranui to the Rearguard Circle to then later put it into your soul, so you get the full effect of Ouroboros immediately on the first grade free turn. And this grade 1 increases that consistency quite significantly, especially in combination with the grade 3 generic searcher. So it annoys me that this isn't a double R in the set, as it could definitely just be a double R in the set, as it really is, it's that good. But sadly, they made it a shop challenge they made a shop tournament promo. So who knows if we're going to get it in the West. I definitely hope we would, because it's a obvious include for the deck. Maybe not at a 4-off, but definitely at least 2 copies in your Shiranui deck, as it's that significant for your strategy. And that also rounds up all the card reveals and news that we've got today. Let me know in the comments down below what you guys think of these new cards for New Metama with the whole Shiranui package. It is definitely really interesting with the interaction with the bouncing effects and discard effects, as well as this new version, this new standardized version of Dominate, as it's a really interesting take on that Dominate mechanic. But also let me know in the comments down below what you guys think of the new choice restriction for Shadow Paladin. Do you think this was the correct call? Do you think this is too much? Do you think this is actually not enough? Let me know all your thoughts in the comments down below, because that is definitely a very touchy subject for a lot of players for many different reasons. As always, this video has been brought to you by our lovely patrons over at patreon.com/VanguardInsider. You guys are amazing. If you do want to support the channel or everything that's happening on the channel, you can simply go to patreon.com/VanguardInsider and become a Patreon today. But with that said, I'm Mr. Time Leap, and I see you guys in the next one.